Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
The other judges of the appeals chamber on this appeal are Judge Howard Morrison, Judge Pons, to please introduce themselves for the record. Such a case, the investigation must be authorized by a pretrial chamber.
The ICC is designed to apply individual responsibility to violators of fundamental norms of international law in an international setting. So the crucial thing is that a lot of this sort of stuff got done in domestic courts for a long time, but the ICC was the first permanent international criminal court that prosecuted people we understand sort of colloquially as war criminals.
And that he understands them. I'm sure that you have explained.
Lubanga Armed Group recruit, train, and use hundreds of young children to kill, pillage, and rape. Some of them became prostitutes, and some of them are orphaned and jobless. Then some soldiers came out of the forest.
The various courts established since the 1990s have really convicted, vanishingly few people. The first trial was of a person who recruited child soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Lubanga case. But there haven't been very many cases like that at the ICC. There have been a lot more actually at what we're calling the ad hoc tribunals established by the Security Council in the 1990s in relation to Rwanda and Yugoslavia.
Proposed to use the Mungiki to fight back.
Karimi Muthaura, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and
The ICC goes through a sort of relatively long process. A case is brought to its attention either by a state or by the Security Council or through action by the prosecutor. Then, in many of those cases, the pretrial chamber will make a decision about whether an arrest warrant can be issued. The arrest warrant is then issued by the prosecutor, and the arrest warrant becomes binding on any state that happens to have custody of the alleged war criminal. That's roughly how it works. It's very hard to enforce an arrest warrant. We've been here before with the South Africans and al-Bashir in Sudan. And there, the court didn't even make an order. It didn't, in fact, refer the matter to the Assembly of State Parties when the South Africans failed to surrender al-Bashir to the ICC. I mean, there's a legal question here and a political question. The political question really aligns around the relationship between diplomacy and law.
Thank you, Your Honors. I will speak first, followed by my friend, Mr. Raston. South Africa failed to comply with its obligation under the statute by failing to arrest and surrender Mr. al-Bashir. And yes, given the gravity and all the circumstances of this noncompliance, you should make a formal finding and refer the matter both to the ASP and to the Security Council.
If the state party fails to comply with an arrest warrant, the case can go before the court, and the court can then order the state party to comply and can refer the matter to what's called the Assembly of State Parties, or ultimately the Security Council, if it's the Security Council that first referred the matter. So the ICC, the court itself, really can't do a great deal.
Are not precise, or maybe they have, somehow where people live, and there is no any military objects, and if November, PM, at the same time.
When these diplomatic imperatives around peace in Ukraine will come into conflict with a question about what exactly to do about Vladimir Putin's arrest warrant at the ICC. I mean, will the arrest warrant just be ignored? Or will there be an attempt to enforce it, which would result in the dissolution of the peace process? So it's a really tricky matter, and I'm not entirely sure that it's been properly thought through.
Сделали мастер-план, и мы полностью сделали электронную карту города до каждого объекта. Все делать хорошо, вот такие веселенькие. Вот это, кстати, был памятник исторический.
Международный уголовный суд не имеет универсального значения. Это одна из международных организаций, юрисдикцию которой Россия не признает. Так же, как и многие другие страны мира. По-моему, США тоже не признают. Китай не признает. Да, Турция, да. Вот, поэтому то, что такая...
You sort of lose the freedom to travel. So I think international law and international criminal law works in, mysterious ways. The enforcement of it doesn't always happen in a court. Sometimes somebody's just sitting down with their passport wondering where to go on holiday and discovers they can't go to 56 places, and that's a kind of form of enforcement. And the other thing I'd say is that you do get cases where people are surprisingly detained, sometimes by accident almost.
The greatest dinner I've ever had, right? Come on, let's get a beautiful. Let's make it. Great.
Nothing. The United States has no duties to arrest or surrender Netanyahu. So there, the kind of political needs of the United States match rather nicely with the legal position.
No biased anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent the State of Israel from defending its citizens.
The truth is that only with a change of government, and a pretty radical change of government in both those states, would you get into a situation where Netanyahu or Putin was arrested and surrendered to the ICC. But these things do happen. A week can be a long time in politics, and one can go from being a respected statesperson to being a war criminal. That's what happened to Slobodan Milosevic. He was the president of Yugoslavia and then Serbia. He was a negotiating partner at Dayton with NATO and so on. And then he found himself under arrest for war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide. He died in jail. But so politics shifts, and arrest warrants are forever. So they've got an advantage over politics in a way in that sense.